All right. Not sure if anyone's on. It says 0 viewers right now. No big deal. We're still going to go through this. My partner in crime is not here yet. Run a little bit late. Had to practice with his kids. But as soon as he is here, he will pick right up. And I have a feeling I may get a call and I may have to respond to that. So if I get up, that is why. Really quick, if you want to head to our famous Mitten running site, that is live with this week's rankings. Stayed up for a good portion of the night getting that done. So if you head to Mitten Running, you will see this week's rankings. The regional rankings are based on actual results from yesterday, and then the top 50 I normally do is just a state qualifiers list. So things got a little shaken up on the overall state rankings, just simply because the field got a little bit smaller. So, you know, depth didn't buy you quite what it did in a 50-team field. Hoping some people kind of join in on this discussion. I admittedly have little to no idea what I'm talking about with those lower divisions. I'm D1, I'm in a D1 area, but I will definitely do my best to keep this going. So getting rolling here. If you have any questions, obviously post them. You can tweet them. It's going to be hashtag Mitten Running, D4, D3, D2, or D1, depending on what you want to talk about. I really think that that's the best way to get this going, just because, like I said, I don't have a ton of knowledge on the D4 group. Quickly going over, we're going to start with D4. I'm thinking it's going to be about 10 minutes of gender, but I'm actually going to go in the regional order. And so it's going to be a little mixed in there. And we will get this thing rolling now. Really interesting this year. I haven't really been in a position to sit back. I just haven't had the time to sit back and look at regional results and see exactly who brought a full team and who did not on regional day. And I found it really interesting. A lot of regionals that had fewer than 10 teams. And I know that this conversation is brought up a lot by our MHSAA board, the coaches organization. How do we balance out these regionals? Definitely seems to be a concern when you see some regionals that run all 15 teams with some incredible times, and then you see a few others that are under 10 teams. It should be regional based. It doesn't seem to be completely regional based. You see teams driving 2 hours sometimes to get to their regional, which seems a little crazy. But that's just a matter of kind of collecting data. That's why I started this site. We're going to collect this data. We'll be able to see kind of trends from year to year. You'll be able to see the really strong regionals throughout the year through those rankings and where they all fall. And then at the end of the year, you know, you'll really get a feel for how accurate were those preseason rankings. Right now, they're not looking super accurate. Not really a surprise though. And then kind of throughout the season, you'll see really where that tipping point happens. You know, is it after Portage that all of a sudden those results become very accurate? Is it sooner than that? Is it a little bit later than that? Do you have to wait until regional weekend? Because I know one of the proposals is trying to balance out the regionals based on a ranking system. And right now that just seems a little bit difficult for high school cross country. There's just not enough access to data, I would say, for the average person to do an accurate ranking that you really need to be able to do. So getting rolling here, Region 28, just 3 teams, Harbor Springs, Fairview, and Ellsworth made it out. For the men, Harbor Springs, Indian River, and Rogers City are the women's team that are going to get out. Winter Ramian from Ellsworth won at 16:36. Salix Sampson from Harbor Springs on the girls' side, 20:08. So it looked to be a little bit slow of a course. I'm not sure where Region 28 is held. I should have written down that information. I ran a little bit out of time. The 10 a.m. move had to kind of crunch me a little bit, and the Lions are playing, so that got a little bit of priority as well. Region 29, Bear Lake, Manton, and Frankfort men are going to get out, and Jordan Anderson from Bear Lake took that race in 16:41. Caitlin Grigg of Maple City takes the women's race. Bear Lake, Mitten, and Maple City, Glen Lake getting out on that side. Pretty dominant by Bear Lake on both sides. Yeah, they will get out. And we got a question here, in case you did not know. I'm not totally sure how to answer questions within the site, but some people have gotten it. Carl Spina, how close is the race in boys D4? We do have those posted. Like I said, they're on Mitten Running. It just went live a few minutes ago. It's looking like Saugatuck right now is my early favorite, just based on a hypothetical, and very few points. They're at about 57. Concord boys at 79, sitting in second. Bear Lake and Beale City 3-4, and then Harbor Springs is going to round out your top 5. Harbor Springs moved up quite a bit, and I'm not sure if that was completely based on a good regional performance or just kind of that field shrinking down. But they moved up 4 spots into that number 5 position from last week. So it should be a good one. Anytime you have 2 teams hypothetically scoring under 100 points, you know it's going to be pretty close. And at state meet, you know, once you start getting into that 16-30 where 2, 3, 4 kids are crossing the line in a second, those places can really, really add up really, really fast. So that should be a really fun thing to watch. I know, you know, Saugatuck and Concord are 2 of the best programs. Concord is probably going to get that individual champ. Jesse Hershaw won it last year. I think he's going for the 4-peat, maybe just the 3. And it should be pretty interesting. Saugatuck's number 1 did not run in regionals yesterday and is currently injured. That is interesting. So obviously that's a little bit of an issue with hypothetical. You can run a great time early on, and then you can, you know, at some point, you don't really have to ever get back to that. And the hypothetical is still going to put you as the number 1, whether you're injured. And so looks like that could change a little bit. I understand that that's the problem with some hypothetical, but you know, we will see. Saugatuck's a good program. You know, I fully believe that they'll throw, you know, everything down next Saturday to really get this going. And they usually show up for that meet. So maybe their number 1 will be injured, maybe he won't be. But I think that they'll put forward a good effort regardless. Feel free to keep those questions pouring in. You can tweet, obviously, hashtag Mitten Running D4. I'm going to keep going on regionals. I'll try to keep an eye on the questions as well. Region 30, Beale City, Breckenridge, and Evar men's teams are going to get out. The McBain team just 2 points away from that 3rd place finish. And Nick Pung from Beale City won that 16:33. Alexis McConnell of Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart, obviously a very quality team. She wins it in 18:54. Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart wins it. Beale City and Breckenridge round out your top 3. So that Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart and Beale City have kind of been battling back and forth here. They're both looking to be top 3, top 5 teams, no question. And so I'm sure that that was a really interesting, maybe fun regional day for them. Obviously, regional is a very small field. So when you do have depth, you're not quite sure, you know, how that really plays out in the state finals. Right now, I have Beale City 3, Saugatuck 4, separated by just 20 points in that hypothetical. Obviously, a lot can change, but right now, Beale City does have the slight edge over Saugatuck just based on times. Heading to Region 31, Saugatuck, this is their region. Their men won it with 33 points, pretty good. Eclair and North Muskegon will be the other 2 teams to get out of there. Brendan Hamilton of Fruitport Cavalry Christian wins it 16-17. Avery Lowe of North Muskegon, she's going to take the girls race in 18:52. Pretty good time there. That looks to be a very, very good course. And obviously everyone across the state, I believe, had pretty good weather. I know where I was, it was a gorgeous day. And I don't think I've had that for regionals in a while. So that was definitely nice. On the women's side, Saugatuck, Muskegon, Western Michigan Christian. It's a lot of names. And North Muskegon will be your top 3 there. Like you look at this, only 6 teams actually finished in that region. And that's where a lot of this regional imbalance. On the men's side, only 7 teams finished. It is somewhat regional based, like I said, but only having 6 teams finish, most people's conference meets are bigger than that. So you got to wonder, is that really a regional? And I know this D4 problem comes up a lot. Teams say that they're going to field a cross country team, and then they don't. Or, they only have 4 kids on it, and that technically counts as a team. You get assigned to a regional, even though you have no chance. So a lot of things. I'm trying to get immersed in this D4. Like I said, I'm not very used to it. But it is interesting how the D4 situation is handled. Emily Stefke was sick yesterday and ran as Beal City's 5th. She has been running as their number 1. Okay, so Beal City looks like, obviously they were a man down when they ran at regionals, so they lost to Sacred Heart by about 15 points. So maybe it looks like they're going to go ahead, and that is why they're ranked ahead of Saugatuck right now. And they're 3rd, technically behind Mount Pleasant, Sacred Heart, but that's only 2 points. And in a hypothetical, 2 points just doesn't mean a whole lot. Obviously, as I said, once you get into the middle of that race, kind of the bell curve, kids are finishing 2-3 across at a time, and it gets pretty crazy. Moving on, Region 32, Kalamazoo Christian, Menden, and Centerville boys teams are going to get out. Doug Howlett of Kalamazoo Christian wins at 16-41. On the women's side, Kalamazoo, Hackett, Menden, and Kalamazoo Christian. So the Kalamazoo schools represent very well. Mary Ackenbauer from Kalamazoo Hackett takes it 18-53. Her sister, Lucy Ackenbauer, is 2nd in 1934. And Hackett went 1 through 4, and then 7th overall, 6th in the team scoring. They scored just 16 points. Pretty darn good day for regionals. Kalamazoo Hackett is going to stay as the number 1 in my hypothetical. They have been since, I believe, the 2nd week. And, they've just been on a roll. So that should be really fun to watch. Yeah, we'll have to see what they bring. Region 33, Concord, Potterville, and Lansing Christian are going to get out. Hershaw wins that of Concord 15-46. And don't really think he was challenged. Probably saving up a little bit for Saturday. Got the wheels moving a little bit. In the women's side, New Lothrop, Blanchard, Montebello, and Fowler are going to be the 3 teams that get out. Ava Strenge of Battle Creek St. Philip takes that one in 1914. And Battle Creek St. Philip finished 4th, so they did not qualify as a team. Region 34, the men, Hudson, Hillsdale Academy, and Ottawa Lake Whiteford. Those are going to be the 3 teams that get out. Aaron Peters of Sand Creek wins at 17-11. And then Reading, Britton Deerfield, and Hillsdale Academy are 1, 2, 3 on the women's side. And Teresa Edenier, sorry if I butcher names. First time I'm reading a lot of these, honestly. She's of Reading, 1951. So another course that looks to be pretty slow, or maybe not the best field. Only 8 girls teams finish in that region once again, and obviously they had many more than that initially, as far as who was assigned to go there. Region 35, so we're down to our last 2 here. Ubly, it's probably pronounced wrong. Grosse Pointe Woods University Leggett, and Rochester Hills Lutheran Northwest are your top 3. Luke Anderson of Harbor Beach takes that in 15-52. That's a pretty good time for regionals. Not sure where that regional's held again, but a darn good time rolling into state meet. On the women's side, Ubly, Waterford Our Lady, and Grosse Pointe Woods University Leggett. Those are going to be your top 3 teams. Tessa Fernari of Waterford Our Lady takes that in 18-19, which is also a very fast time. So it looks like that course may have been fast. I'm not going to say short or anything like that. Looks like it was fast. Obviously, everyone had good weather yesterday. Region 36, Plymouth Christian, Southfield Christian, and Riverview Gabriel Richard on the men's side. Joey Finelli of Plymouth Christian takes that in 17-57. That's another example where only 7 teams ran. 17-57 wins your regional. Probably doesn't even get you to state meet at a lot of regionals. Then again, you beat who shows up on the course. Can't be upset at the kid, but that's where you got to question that regional imbalance, however we want to describe it. On the women's side, Riverview, Gabriel Richard, Wixom, St. Catherine, and Royal Oak Shrine are your top three. Again, only 7 teams come across the line. Jenna Weisner of Lutheran Westland takes that one in 20:43. And again, a pretty slow time, probably getting you to state finals, but definitely not winning you most regionals. So we got a question that I think we're going to move on to kind of the bigger D4 picture. This is where I would like as much input as possible. The women's race is, I would say, I'm going to say it's most up for grabs just because they're the only division race that is not going to have a returning state champ. As Kirsten Olin, she ended up going to Arizona State, 4-time state champ, just missed being Miss Michigan cross country. She took that race last year. She was the only senior last year to win a race that day. Obviously, D1, Audrey Belf, Grant Fisher. D2 was Austin Sargent and Kenzie Wheeler. D3 was Kerrigan Smith Gina Patterson, I'm sorry, and Keenan Rivera. And those were all juniors. They're all coming back next year. They may not be necessarily the favorites, just I know a lot of people can sneak in there. But then again, they're defending champs. So got to give them a little bit of credit. D4 women, I think, is going to be a little more interesting just because you don't have that returner. Hershaw, like I said, on the men's side, he's coming back. He's going for 3 in a row, I was just informed. And that should be really interesting to see how he ends up doing. I think state finals, I've seen weather forecasts for it. It looks bleak, but then again, it always does. It's the first weekend of November. And I would say that right now we probably have the best talent in the nation as far as who will be running that day. And if things go well weather-wise, if the course stays a little bit dry, if we avoid that headwind for the start and finish, and even if it's a little bit cool, as long as you're avoiding the wind and the wet, we could see some really fast times. And I don't know if we're going to see Dathan-like times. I don't know if we're going to see anything like that. But I think the talent is here. Is Audrey Belf going to break 17? How many guys are going to break 15? Definitely 15, 15, 15, 20. There are a lot of guys, D1, D2, D3, D4, all the way down that have the ability to do it. And I think that it's going to be an awesome state meet. I know that I'm very happy to be able to be a part of it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm working in some capacity, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I haven't missed that meet since I started going to it, and I think a lot of people across the nation, maybe just in this state, don't totally realize the talent that's out there that we are fortunate enough to be able to watch on a regular basis. I know Mile Split Crew was just out at the Mount Sac race. I'm trying to think of where that is. The kid that won it went 14:23. First thing they asked him, are you going to be able to beat Grant Fisher at Foot Locker? Obviously, Grant hasn't run anywhere near 14:23, but it's just this mindset that kids rolling out of our state right now are tough. They're fast. Obviously, Grant Fisher can, we consider to be able to race with anybody. And we'll touch into that a little bit more when we get to D1, but everyone should be very appreciative of what's here. I know, kind of opening my eyes when I worked for Mile Split, I had national people telling me, what you have there is unbelievable. Our state 2 mile, what we've been cranking out on the girls' end. Look at Michigan State girls. They're not 1 and 2 anymore, but they're both top 5. They've been 1 and 2 for a couple of weeks, and that's pretty much all Michigan girls, and that's pretty impressive. Obviously, you got Goethals out in Washington. You got the Myers down in Duke. You got people everywhere, and it's really cool to see, and we should be very excited. I'm going to go ahead and move on to D3 unless people have any burning questions. These rankings are posted, as I mentioned, on Mitten Running. Just went up today. Not much of a change. D1, there's a little bit of a change, which is why I'm saving it for last. Also, it's the field I maybe know a little bit more about, so it'll be a little easier for me to talk open-ended about that. I am going to get up really quick and go let in my partner. Please turn to channel 2, watch the Lions. They're playing in London, currently down 14-0. We should be back very, very soon. All right. We are back up and rolling here. Takashi Gold is here. He had practice with his Dexter Dreadnoughts this morning. Woo! So coaching came first. D3 on the table next. Like I said, we'll be looking for questions. If you have anything to say, hashtag Mitten Running D3. You can just directly tweet us at Mitten Running. I have it here in front of me, so it shouldn't be tough for me to respond to that. Like I said, we'll do the same thing. We'll kind of go through the regionals, talk about, obviously some very good ones, some very weak ones, and then we'll talk about the bigger picture, and then we'll keep an eye on questions and see what's coming in, what's on your mind. So Region 19, Benzie, Boyne City, and Mason County Central are going to be your 3 teams out. Zach Benham of Mason County Central takes that one in 15:40. Pretty good time. Not quite sure where that race is run, but that's very, very impressive. On the women's side, Manistee, Hart, and Traverse City Grand Traverse Academy. Oh, this is up in at the Grand Traverse Resort. So I've heard that course is very fast. I've heard it's very short. I haven't been there, but it looks like it was very fast yesterday regardless. Women's side, Amber Way of Charlevoix takes it 17:51. Holly Below of Traverse City St. Francis is second, 17:54. Very fast times, no question. So, like I said, I'm not going to say it's short. I'm just going to say it's fast, and we'll see from there. Region 20, Grand Rapids Covenant Christian, Granville Calvin Christian, and Holland Black River are going to be your 3 teams out. Abe Visser of Granville Calvin Christian takes that one in 15:35. Another Holland time. This is just D3, keep in mind, and these times are, creeping up very, very fast. On the women, Granville Calvin Christian, Holland Black River, and Grand Rapids West Catholic are your 3 out. Allison Vroon of Holland Black River takes that in 18:44. Another great time, and we will see obviously what they bring to state finals. That's really the true equalizer. You can run whatever time you want all year, and if you run on a short course, you tend to get exposed all of a sudden that day. Region 21, Bridgman, Banger, and Watervliet are your 3 teams out on the men's side. Brian Najana, I butchered that, I apologize. Bridgman, 16:16, takes that one. Women's, Hopkins, Watervliet, and Delton Kellogg are your 3 teams out. Delton Kellogg and Bangor are just a point apart, and they did not get the automatic 4th team qualifier by getting 4 in the top 20. So 1 point separates going to state meet and not. Hopefully they got some runners there regardless. Rachel Weber of Hopkins will win that race in 19:41. Region 22, Hanover, Horton, Jackson, Lumen Christi, and Jonesville are your 3 teams out. Ben Yutz of Michigan Center takes that in 16-18. Lumen Christie, Leslie, and Hanover Horton on the girls' side. Three perennial powers, no question, on the D3. Aubrey Penn of Jackson Lumen will take that in 1948. So it doesn't look to be a blazing course. That's probably run at Ella Sharp, would be my guess based on the Jackson area teams. And that's probably one of the truest 5K courses you'll see in the state of Michigan, in my opinion, definitely in Southeast Michigan.
Hey, nice shout out to Jonesville, coached by Josh Perrin, old EMU guy, good guy.
Old EMU. We are here in Ypsi, about a stone's throw away from EMU's campus, so that's why they get the shout out today. Lansing Catholic, moving on to Region 23, Lansing Catholic, Pewamo, Westphalia, and Ovid Elsie are your three teams out. This was run up at Uncle John's Cider Mill. I haven't been there. Actually, Takashi was up there for the D1 region.
It was an interesting course. Lots of long straightaways, hard turns, something that you normally don't see on a cross-country course. As far as spectators and coaches go, one that is tricky because you didn't see him for long periods of time. You'd see him, and then 6 minutes later, you'd see him elsewhere, another 6 minutes later. So you couldn't really exactly coach your kids to you. It was all in the hands of the athletes. So it was a really fun experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. Almost a little bit of preparation for MIS where you're not seeing your coach. If you do see him, there are so many people yelling at you that you have no idea what they're saying or anything. So maybe that's a good practice there. Ribera will take that race in 16-13.
Cruise control.
Cruise
control the whole thing.
Just getting the gears ready for next Saturday, no question. On the women's side, Ithaca, Lansing Catholic, and St. Louis. Pewamo, Westphalia, just missed. Number 3 runner was 20th. Their number 4 runner was 21st, I believe. And obviously it's 4 in the top 20. So 1 or 2 places, just missing getting out. That is a very good region, though. Ithaca and Lansing Catholic are 2 of the top teams. And a little bit of an upset there, I would think, for St. Louis sneaking in. Sophia Bradley of St. Louis, though, wins the race. That definitely helped. 18:50 for her. So very, very good. Region 24, this is Claire, Shepherd, and Carrollton are going to be your 3 teams out. Claire and Shepherd almost in a dual meet-like score, 43-57. And everyone else was just kind of along for the ride. Carrollton sneaks out by 3 points over Hemlock. Walker Priest of Shepherd, 16-25 for the win. Obviously, played a big part. Didn't quite get the win, but women's side, Shepherd walks away with it, 18 points. Claire still under 50 points. So clearly this is a battle of 2 top dogs. Roscommon is going to be your 3rd team out. They get 100 points, 3 ahead of Pinconning. Taylor Thrush of Shepherd, 18:56. She won by 1 whole minute. So congratulations to her. We'll see what she brings next Saturday. Region 25. So we're kind of moving through these quick. If you've got anything to say, throw it out there. Otherwise, we're just going to keep talking. Caro, Sandusky, and Reese are your 3 teams out. Pretty close. All teams under 80 points. So that's a good race. Branson Stemfel of Cass City takes that one at 15:48. Again, not quite sure where that race is run, but that's a very impressive time, I would say, on no matter where that is. Caro, Otisville, Lakeville, and Reese are your 3 teams out on the girls' side. So Reese and Caro getting out both genders. Remington Hobson of Montrose, she is going to win that one in 19:26. If you look on the men's side of that one, only 8 teams finished the race. And 7 who were supposed to go did not, at least field full teams. So I got to wonder a little bit about that. Moving on, Region 26, this is a great example of it. Macomb Lutheran North takes it. Almont and Byron, top 3. Jack Miles of Almont wins it, 17-16. 17-16 is not going to get you top 10 in most regionals, and yet it won the race here. On the women's side, Macomb Lutheran North, Capic, and Byron are your top 3. Durand was your 4. They would have qualified. They had 4 in the top 20, but the rule stipulates you have to have at least 8 full teams finish the race. They only had 7. So this is kind of the example that, these regionals, they had 10 teams at least not show up and not field full teams. It is a lot of Detroit area schools. That tends to be a common theme here. How do we account for them? How do we really make these regionals even? You can't really bank on all these teams not showing up just from a bias standpoint, and yet, they didn't show up. So Gina Patterson, though, takes that from Macomb Lutheran North, 1853. She won by 1:30, and she is your defending D3 state champ. So I'm sure she's looking, to roll again next Saturday. And Region 27, I was actually at this one. It was on Lake Erie. Gorgeous weather. I've never been there when it's been so nice. 65 degrees, sunshine, light winds the whole day.
It's gotta be the first.
And I was layered to the max. Stockbridge, Dundee, and Adrian Madison are the 3 teams out. Austin Fillmore of Stockbridge, 16:48. Pretty good time on that course. It was a little bit soggy, but that was it. No real howling winds or anything. Blissfield, Ida, Adrian Madison, and Erie Mason is going to sneak out as the number 4 team. Only 2 number 4s, I believe, made it out this year, and Erie Mason girls were one of them. Ashley Sorge of Ida, 1934 to win the race. It was actually really great seeing her finish. Turned around, headed straight down, cheered on her girls. Obviously, it made an impact as they finished second, and that was really good to see.
A huge jump by Blissfield to 41 in the swing point.
Yeah,
That's one of the bigger ones and a nice upset. Good job by them.
Just kind of the D3 picture now. Again, kind of looking for feedback. D3 is definitely not our specialty here, but we will do what we can. On the men's rankings, this is purely hypothetical. Before you jump down my throat, we got Benzie, Lansing Catholic, Hanover Horton, Clare, and Shepherd. Clare and Shepherd actually flip-flop from last week. They're 4-5, and that is based on the hypothetical. Again, Holland Black River moving up 7 spots. And again, that's just this field shrinking down, and the depth doesn't quite get you as far. You can get away with a little more things when there's only 27 teams versus when there's the real hypothetical is usually 50 teams. So that's where this difference is. There's a lot of point changes. There's a lot of moving up, and that's the reason. Keen Rivera of Lansing Catholic, repeat. He won it last year. Had a good track season, and I would say he's the favorite right now. Just kid's a gamer, absolutely. I saw him at New Balance. Went down really, really early. I believe it was into the 2-mile or the 5K, and the kid just got back up and kept trying to make a move and get right back in there. Good to see. And on the women's side, Ithaca, Hart, Lansing Catholic, Manistee, and Shepherd. That's staying pretty much constant. Hart and Lansing Catholic are going to flip, but it's still only about an 8-point difference, and that's pretty close. Gina Patterson is our back-to-back D3 champ, so she's going to go for the 3-peat this year. Honestly, it's been done a lot actually on the girls' side especially, but it will be interesting to watch exactly who her competition is out there. Ithaca girls now have been ranked in that number 1 spot for well over a majority of the season. And that's Coach Gene LeBron up there. He was a really good runner, both for Central and I believe he went to Albion down here for high school. And that he's got that team definitely clicking along.
Then you got 19 points separating 2nd through 5th. So it's a crowded field, and that could be anybody's day there looking to take home a trophy for the Speedway.
That's true, yep.
So it'll be a fun one to watch.
Keeping an eye on questions here. Yeah, not seeing much. Maybe someone's broken. No big deal. This is kind of a first as far as the ability for those questions to come up. You can obviously tweet at any time. You can tweet directly at Mitten Running, or you can use some hashtags, hashtag Mitten Running D3, D2, D1, whatever you're looking for. Right. We can. We're gonna move on to D2 now. Starting to get a little more into what we're familiar about. I guess if we kind of crank through this stuff, we'll see, if people have comments or anything. Afterwards, we can definitely go back and hopefully answer those and, keep this going. This is very open-ended as far as what's talked about. Nothing like this is really, I've never seen it done at least. We tend to kind of talk at the coaches clinic or something like that. We all bash each other on the MLive forum. But actually sitting here talking, being able to have a dynamic conversation where people are able to tweet us right now, post questions, and then we're able to respond right away, rather than letting it fester for 2-3 days if we happen to catch it. I think that this is a really good thing, and it's something that I would like to see going forward, maybe 3-4 times a year. You hit it after some big invites. You talk about a preseason, and this is something I'd really like to see brought home a lot more. Moving on, Region 10. This is up north, Fremont, Sparta, and Petoskey. A lot of changing from the hypothetical that I had going into that. Petoskey was ranked 6th going into that meet. They end up getting 3rd in qualifying. So great job to them. Austin Sargent takes that 15:46. He was the D2 state champ last year, so I'm sure he's looking to get that going. On the other side, his teammate Kenzie Wheeler, defending D2 state champ, 18:15 of Cedar Springs. She won 18:15, like I said. Cedar Spring girls will win it. Whitehall and Gaylord are your top 3. Cedar Springs making a nice jump, really, when it comes down to it. Crunch time, regional time, that's one of the teams in my head that I think of really performing well. And it seems, they're ranked 3rd headed into this. They ended up 1st. So it looks like, they're getting the ball rolling, ready for a big showing next week.
We got Fremont boys, one of the big favorites at the state meet next week, too. Looks like they just had that handedly.
Definitely. Another program, top to bottom, Fremont boys, a lot of respect, especially for what they did, honestly, about 10 years ago when battling with Dexter, actually.
I wasn't there for that.
Region 11, Grand Rapids Christian, Zeeland West, and Grand Rapids South Christian. Pretty close. Spring Lake just 2 points away from Grand Rapids South Christian. Benny Brazino of Grand Rapids Christian, 15:48 wins it. Grand Rapids Christian boys and girls have been the favorites all year in D2.
I'm looking at this dominant win on the boys' side here by Grand Rapids Christian over Zeeland West. Zeeland West is a very respectable program. They're top 5 right now. If you talk to many, most will think they're top 5, top 6.
Yeah.
And GR Christian just walks away with that one.
Yeah.
Huge.
28 points and
big confidence builder for them.
Yeah, if they needed it. They've been top dog all year,
Yeah.
and I would say that's going to keep going. On the women's side, Grand Rapids Christian, Spring Lake, and Grand Rapids South Christian, again, is your 3rd place team. Kelly Neske of Hudsonville Unity Christian, 18:32. Pretty good time there. So that's good to see. Grand Rapids Christian ladies again scoring 28 points, same as their boys. So no bragging rights. They'll have to see who scores fewer points at the state finals on Saturday. And I'm sure that's probably a little bit of jeering on their end, a little bit of friendly competition between the two programs. Region 12, St. Joseph, Richland, Gull Lake, and Otsego. Those are your top 3 making it. Skylar Arthur of St. Joseph, 16:05. On the women's side, St. Joseph, Otsego, and Millville, Thornapple, Kellogg. Erica Freihoff of Hamilton takes that in 18:39. Very fast. Didn't really look like there were a whole lot of question marks heading into this region. Not a lot of change after the fact. But yeah, we'll see what this region can bring.
Much closer race than that one. There was St. Joe and Otsego girls. Both. You're looking at 2 top 3 teams just grinding it out at it. It'll be fun to see what this region produces overall at the state meet.
Region 13, we're heading back up north. Grand Rapids, Forest Hills, Northern, and then East Grand Rapids and St. John's. Grand Rapids tends to be a theme with D2 schools. They've kind of dominated that field for a while. Really good thing to see quickly. These are almost full regionals, 13 teams running out of 14 full teams. This was run at Uncle John's Cider Mill actually as well. So Takashi was there and able to watch them.
This was another one amazing. Ionia, their number 4 finished 21st. So there's that scenario again.
That's right.
And their number 3 boy, I believe, was 20th. And they're kind of just, it's one of those things like, it could have gone either way. It would have been nice to see another team get a quality team that, that's another thing, punch their ticket through for next weekend. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case for them. It takes a lot of this luck also that goes into these championship meets.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to, you're not used to focusing really on that number 4 runner during a race. You're maybe focusing on your 3, you're focusing on your 5, maybe your 6 if you think it's coming down to a tiebreaker. But that number 4 runner, I think, just somehow gets forgotten in the mix. But at regionals, it's really important that their top 20 they can get that automatic qualifier if necessary. On the women's side, East Grand Rapids, Forest Hills Northern, and DeWitt are your 3 out. Kerrigan Smith of St. John's, I would say that she's going to be in contention for that D2 title as well. 18-24. On the boys' side, I don't think I mentioned it, Cody Cook of St. John's, 16-26. So we obviously know the integrity of that course. It looks like it was fast, but it's also a very competitive field. So that probably had more so to do with it than anything.
That women's race is a little closer than what the scores put it out. I mean, you're talking about 3-point separation between second and third, but just looking at it from just an outsider perspective, you could seriously not tell that, EGR had the win. You think they had a little bit of a better team, but you wouldn't have known that they won by 20. Wow. So that was a nail biter there.
And obviously, regionals can be kind of tough to predict. It's a small field for the most part. You're never quite sure how things are going to really shake out that day. Some teams are more eyeing on next Saturday in the state finals if they think they got their ticket punched. Maybe be top 2 and just kind of get by. But Region 14, I believe this is held at Ellis Sharp Park as well. This is Chelsea boys getting it done. One of the programs that we see a lot of, we're SEC coaches, rival to Dexter, and at the end of the year, Coach Swagger, he's gonna have those boys ready. And early on in the year, especially early mid-September, Chelsea boys really did not look like much. It looked like they had some issues with conditioning over the summer and just weren't quite ready to go that early on.
They've turned it on. They've got it going, man. They've got it going.
And anyone who doubted them, and partially us, shame on us for sure. Chelsea, Sturgis, Parma Western are your 3 out. Daniel Steele of Sturgis, 16-22. Pretty good on Ellis Sharp's course. Definitely. Chelsea girls, they're looking to be a top 5-ish team. They take that pretty handily over SEC friendly team Adrian. A little bit of SEC pride out there. Williamston girls will finish 3rd. Megan Hopkins of Chelsea, 19-18 for the win. I believe her teammate was 2nd as well. So Chelsea girls have been there all year as well. Coach Pat Clark has been there time and time again. He started that girls program there, and they've done some very good things.
Now their Achilles heel at the state meet will be the gap between number 4 or 5, but now what you look at the results here, what's amazing is actually their 6 has come along as they're pushing their 5, so they got a little bit of an insurance policy there on that one.
That's that team effort that
they got a nice front 4, let me tell you.
The depth, yeah, absolutely. That number 5 can get buried, but there's also a lot of room for shock the world, so to say. Yep. Coruna out of Region 15 will take that win. Clio and Linden are your top 3. Midland Bullet Creek just 4 points away from making it. Did not make it as the number 4 team. Noah Jacobs of Corona, 15-59. On the women's side, Linden, Essexville Garber, and Flint Powers Catholic. Mount Pleasant, just 3 points out of that auto qualifier. So that's interesting to see. Dylan McClintock of Owasso, 18-59 for that win. Again, a pretty full regional, 14, 15, 16 teams. Which is good to see. I think 14 teams is really the magic number for a region as far as competitiveness, while still making sure that the necessary teams get out without it being too tough. Region 16, we're kind of clipping along here. Any questions, feel free to reach out. Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, St. Clair, and Armada. Those are your top 3. Crosswell Lexington, one of the staple programs that I kind of think of in my mind. They seem to always be there. They did not make it. Morgan Beatlescombe of Algonac, 16-22 for the win. On the women's side, Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, Marysville, and Ortonville Brandon. And talk about probably the closest regional I've seen so far. Amazing. Notre Dame Prep 105, Marysville 108, Ortonville Brandon 115. So 10 points are separating the top 3. And Crosswell Lexington is left out, and they're 118 points. So they're only 13 places
from winning the regional title.
And they don't make it.
They don't make it.
So I'm sure, I can just imagine watching this race, and you're for every kid you see from Pontiac, you see another kid from Marysville, another kid from Ortonville Brandon, and you really wait for the computer results to come out on that one. Gabrielle Morton of St. Clair wins that, 19-31. Again, a nice full regional, 14 teams on each side, 13 actually on the women's. Good to see. Looked like it was a very competitive race. Maybe no Blazers up front, but very competitive. It seems like it would have been a fun race to watch, actually, when it's that close up front. Region 17, this was another qualified number 4 team. Orchard Lake St. Mary wins it, 24 points, pretty darn good.
Jeez.
Ferndale, Bloomfield Hills, Cranbrook, Kingswood is your third. Detroit Country Day sneaks out, and deservingly so. They score 85 points. Bloomfield Hills 75, Ferndale 62, Orchard Lake St. Mary 24, like I said. So that was pretty close, and there was a 100-point gap then between 4 and 5. So I would say that that's one example where that number 4 team definitely deserved to get in there. Colin Herman of Orchard Lake St. Mary wins that one 16-18. Not totally sure where that one's held, but seems to be a pretty good time.
Quality regional for sure.
Warren Regina on the women's side will take that one with 39 points. Another really close race here. Bloomfield Hills, Cranbrook, Kingswood 42 points, and Detroit Country Day 49 points. That's your top 3 teams, all under 50 points. Unfortunately, that was because they only had 6 teams in the race. And right behind them, Bloomfield Hills, Marion, Ferndale, and St. Clair Shores Lake, or South Lake. So 6 teams. Obviously, there were probably some individual runners, but only 42 runners were counting for team places.
So you're talking about 13 incomplete teams that are regional.
And
that's amazing.
Yeah, and again, it's that Detroit area. Don't have a great answer for it yet. Not sure districts are the answer. Not sure seeding is the right answer, but this is clearly something that does have to be accounted for. Is some of the roads that these teams had were significantly easier than other teams. And we can go into that a little bit more later on. Region 18, I was actually at this one as well, that downriver region right on Lake Erie, gorgeous day. Dearborn Divine Child, Allen Park, and Ann Arbor Gabriel Richard will be your top 3 out. Alec Keaton of Allen Park, 1636 for the win. Carleton Airport just 10 points out of 3rd place. They will not advance. Allen Park, I was told their coach actually made a bet with the team. If they qualified to state meet, he was allowed to be thrown in the lake. And that is Lake Erie.
That's awesome.
And it happened.
That's awesome.
And so their coach was thrown in Lake Erie. Congrats to him, I think. Definitely congrats to the team for getting another week of competition. Hopefully, luckily it was a nice day. Grosse Seal on the women's side will take it. Carleton Airport and Ann Arbor Gabriel Richard. Those are your top 3. So Richard getting out on both sides.
And if you look at it, you got Trenton, Dearborn Divine Child, Monroe, Jefferson on the girls' side, so 4th, 5th, 6th. Just a mere, when you're talking 14 points, any of them could have punched their ticket in.
And Trenton was actually another one of those teams that had number 4 runner was 21st place. I actually had one of the girls on the team come up and ask me as I was posting results, and unfortunately I had to break her heart and let her know that her team just missed by a place. It's tough to keep track of for a number 4 runner, am I 20th place or not? So I can't really get too upset at anyone, especially when you only lose by 7 points. Miranda Banks of Carleton Airport wins that one though in 1955. That was one of the later races that day. Boys ran first and then girls. So any D2 thoughts? More than happy to answer throughout. Getting a few shout outs here, but overall it was a lot of D4 questions. If you go on MLive or anything like that, there have been a lot of D4 conversation all year. So I think that that seems to be a hotbed with coaches. D2 now, just kind of the overall picture. Like I said, Grand Rapids Christian, looks like they're going to walk away with both titles. I would say it's theirs to lose, although a lot can happen at MIS. Fremont boys in 2nd, St. Joseph 3rd, Zeeland West, and Orchard Lake St. Mary. Orchard Lake St. Mary, a little bit of a surprise for me. When I think of them, I don't think of cross country. I think of football.
Football powerhouse.
Yeah.
You always see it.
And
doing a great job.
Yeah, it looks like they're starting to get things in line. Grand Rapids Christian women, St. Joseph, Otsego, East Grand Rapids, and Chelsea will round out the top 5 there. Pretty competitive, I would say. One thing on the rankings that we do have, it shows, when a team is new to the rankings, you go to D2, look at Region 17, all three of those teams are brand new to the rankings, and that means brand new to the top 50 from last week. So those three teams that qualified were not even in the top 15 or top 50 from last week. Again, that regional imbalance is kind of on the back of everyone's heads. You look on the other side, though, that Region 17 has the number 8, the number 10, and the number 15 team. And the number 16 team. So, that's where balancing comes into a lot of question, really, because you're not quite sure. You can't send a boys team away from a girls team, just because a lot of the time the coaches, are coaching both, or they're sharing a bus or something like that. And so, how would you handle that region? Is a big question mark, I would say. Like I said, your two champs from last year, Austin Sargent and Kenzie Wheeler, are coming back, and that D2 race was very close last year. I know the girl from Detroit Country Day was in the mix, as well as Kerrigan Smith from St. John's, and I think that that'll be one of the better races again at this state finals. Trying to keep an eye on questions coming through. Feel free to tweet right at us at Mitten Running, hashtag Mitten Running, D2, D1, D3, D4, whatever. There's a questions and answers forum right actually on the video. If you're posting comments, I don't think I'm able to see those while this video is going. So, I apologize if you're sitting there posting comments asking why isn't this guy responding to anything I'm saying. And that is why, because I cannot see them. We'll really quickly, we'll kind of move on to D1. We'll try to wrap it up and then just kind of leave for some open discussion for the last week of the season here. We'll definitely get to some big news towards the end, kind of as we go through the regions. Region 1, this is up at Traverse City again. Rockford men, Traverse City West, and Traverse City Central are your 3 out. Isaac Harding of Rockford, 15:38.5. That kid's just a junior. Right behind him, another junior, Anthony Berry of Traverse City Central. And it seems, you think that this class of seniors right now, it's one of the best classes we've ever seen. And we always think this, we think Erin Finn is the best we'll see, and then Audrey Bell comes out of nowhere, and before her it was Megan Gobles, and then it was Erin Finn. And this state is just absolutely on another level, and it's really, really fun to watch. So those kids are both juniors. They'll be back next year. Rockford really looking potentially for that title. And it's been a little while since they've been that high on the mountain, but it looks good. Traverse City Central, Rockford, and Grand Rapids Kennewatt Hills are your top 3 on the girls' side. Seal Kearney, probably said that wrong. Traverse City Central, 1802. Her teammate Ashley Coe, TCC, 1803, right behind her. Looks like they probably
awesome 1-2 punch.
Yeah, looks like they did, enough, just pushing each other back and forth, and that's really, really going to pay off at state finals. Having that familiar face next to you goes so far because you can't hear your coach. You're not hearing your parents yell. It's just general noise, and so having a teammate that can run within a second of you that makes a big difference that day. Moving on to Region 2, this proved to be, I think, one of the most surprising regions, and it turned out to actually be one of the deepest, which I was also a little bit surprised by. I didn't realize the quality that these teams were bringing until they just kept doing it at the end of the season. On the men's side, Holly, Grand Blanc, Clarkston, and Saginaw Heritage. Saginaw Heritage did not make it, though.
That's huge.
Yeah.
I would have never expected that, to tell you the truth. That is a quality team we see always performing at the big invitationals. We see them at MSU Spartan. They're a constant top 10 player.
Yeah.
So that's a heartbreaker for them. And, we'll see what the individuals can get done.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can shoot for an all-state spot. They also have a lot of quality runners on their end.
Obviously, in that race, Grant Fisher, he wins at 15:40. Right behind him, Parker Eisengruber of Saginaw Heritage, 15:48. So it looks like him and Grant were probably running neck and neck. And then, as Grant tends to do, just kind of put the hammer down with 300 to go, 100 to go, whatever he needed to do to win that race. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people appreciate. That kid knows how to win a race. If you watch him run the Adidas Dream Mile, he outkicked kids that were the top kids in the nation that had been outkicking kids all year. And so definitely interesting. Clarkston women, Flushing, and Davison are your top three. Davison moving up really nicely. Did not expect their girls to get out. They graduated Jordan McDermott last year, who's actually here at Eastern Michigan, running very well. And a very impressive job there. Nicole Hansen of Clarkston for the win, 1838. Moving right along, Region 3, Hudsonville, Portage Central, and Grand Haven. This is run on the Portage course, Portage West Middle School. You know, another one of the truest courses that I think you'll see in the state. I'm sure it's been measured over and over by Dan Wick going through, because I'm sure every year someone says, you know, I think this course is short. And I don't think that it is. Connor Horry of Portage Central, 1542. He won by 40 seconds. So good for him on his home course, right down the road from his high school. On the women's side, Granville, Grand Haven, and Hudsonville. Kelly Jackson of Hudsonville, 1748, throwing down, won by 30 seconds.
Unreal.
Hudsonville, though, just eking ahead of Caledonia by 7 points. Caledonia hasn't really been a solid, I mean, they're a good program, but it's more because of what they did in the mid-90s and late 90s. And people maybe not know that history that program really has. But
so even 10 years ago, they were consistently there, and that's another heartbreaker. There were 7 points. Even on the boys' side, East Kent were getting fourth, 10 points away.
Yeah.
You know, just a few unlucky breaks, and that's all it is sometimes.
Right. So yeah, a couple of blowouts in those races, 40 and 30 seconds.
Yep.
Region 4, this is where Takashi was up. Pinckney boys get the job done.
Impressive.
Absolutely impressive. Another program that just gets it going at the right time.
Yeah.
No question about it. Coach Carney has those kids ready to go no matter what you see preseason, in the middle of the season. He keeps them hidden pretty well all year.
Yeah.
And then, boom, when he needs it. Ann Arbor Skyline, maybe one of the biggest surprises if people are not familiar with the program. And we are fortunate enough to be very close. Todd Snyder just taking over the program.
He's got those guys churning. They got everyone healthy now. That was a huge thing. I think they had their number 2, number 3 guy. He was out for the last few weeks. I mean, all for nothing, and he throws out a 16:30 race. That's huge.
Yep.
You know, they had the individual winner as well. So
yeah, John Russell takes that 15:49. The Kale Fineout of Okemos 15:54 runner up, and they had 5 sub-16, and that's on that St. John's course that is showing that it's fast, but it's because it's competitive.
It was ultra competitive. You know, I think just looking at it, I want to see the leaders came through the mile, 4:50, and I know we had some of our boys that were, I think at the 2 mile, they were about 10:25, 10:28, and they were buried in 30th.
Yeah.
You know, it's unreal.
That's crazy. So. And this is, again, a regional balancing issue comes up. And the bigger problem I have with this region is the distance almost all of these teams had to drive.
Yeah.
When you hear region, you think based around something. This should be a group of teams within a finite area.
Right.
But
you have
this region defied logic.
You had 4 teams driving well over 80 miles. You just, and mostly in the D1 aspect. So it was pretty.
And it was normally this is held at Brighton.
Yep.
They moved it up to St. John's because they wanted to have multiple regions. Brighton was only hosting a D1 region,
yep.
And MHSAA didn't want to have to pay for those officials just to work one region. Turned out to be a bottom line thing. There may be more behind it, but that's my understanding. Really quick note though, Milford boys, another program, I'm sure I don't even have to say it, got it going. Unfortunately, they will not be able to defend their three-peat, but they were 5th place.
If you want he's going to have a team in the future. That's a young team. They had a couple seniors up front, but the body of the team, that varsity squad this year was freshmen and sophomores, and he's going to have them humming soon.
Yeah, and he doesn't need much to get it going. That's for sure.
If you want proof, on the girls' side it is.
Yes, and Highland Milford women will take that with us. And I definitely didn't see it coming. They beat a very, very good Brighton team that I really thought was going to make some noise at the state finals.
Absolutely impressive. Just coming through, I think, with about a K to go coming out of the like I guess it's a cornfield area you'd say. I don't want to sound really weird, but coming out of the fields, they were the lead pack. It was 4 of them, Allie from our team, and then we had the gal from Brighton. Her name slips my mind right now. Sorry about that. But I mean, and it was unreal. It was like they just put the hammer down, and I believe their number 6 just missed all region.
That's crazy, and
So,
that's the recipe to win for sure. This was a very competitive race. Milford, Brighton, and Dexter. Dexter just 3 points ahead of East Lansing, and I believe East Lansing was D2 last year or 2 years ago. I think they were just bumped up recently, and both boys and girls are 4th in their region. I'm sure they got a couple of kids to the state finals. So that's impressive to see. That's a big jump, being one of the smaller D2 or bigger D2 to being one of the smallest D1s. That's impressive.
That was great. I didn't even realize they were that close, until later on. I think we're at the award stands there. That was incredible effort by them.
Mallory Barrett of Milford wins it in 1843. Allie McLean right behind her, 1855. Milford girls go 1-3-5. And if you're looking for a way to win a regional, that's how you get it done.
That's a fun team you're going to want to keep your eye on at the state meet for.
Yeah. Region 5, I was at this one, downriver, gorgeous day. Saline takes the win. Temperance, Bedford, Ann Arbor Pioneer, 1-2-3. All SEC schools. A little bit of pride there, I'm sure. Coach Scott Earl of Temperance Bedford, very, very happy. He got something clicking with those boys, no question.
It's been a minute since we've seen Bedford back at the big stage, so it's nice to see them back.
Yeah. He said it was the throwbacks that got them there. They wore a little bit of throwback jerseys, so let's keep it going. Last time they were there, they were a top 10 team, I believe. So very good. Wayne Memorial just missing out. They had kind of been on that fringe all year, but still really a program that's so on the move. And they're a little bit senior heavy right now, but it looks like that they're on the right track.
That's a fascinating story for those that don't know. If you ever get a chance to talk to anybody from Wayne Memorial about that, I mean, they started from almost scratch just a couple of years ago, and then they made the state meet as a team last year. I think for the first time in program history. They've got some outstanding individuals. They're looking to make some noise to state meet for sure. And
again, looking at this region, they had 15, 16 teams come across the line. So although they still had a couple no-shows, still had a very, very quality field. And that's going to happen. Again, they're getting some Detroit schools, but getting 15 teams in a region is pretty competitive. Logan Wetzel outkicks Dominic Davis of Wyandotte to get the win in the final 100 meters, 15:53. Davis was 15:54, the only 2 sub-16. Really impressive on that course.
Yeah.
Even when it's a gorgeous day, it's a little tricky. Yeah. There's some low spots. It doesn't ever seem to quite dry out there.
Yeah.
On the women's side, Saline takes it. No real surprise there. Brownstown, Woodhaven, and Ann Arbor Pioneer are your top 3. Woodhaven has something going that I don't know if everyone realizes. I was fortunate enough to be around the girls, the coach, the program yesterday, seeing how they handled that. Their top 3 are freshmen. And they had a 8th grader was, I believe, top 10 in the prom race. So next year you're looking at their top 4 being all freshmen and sophomore. And
so that's a powerhouse in the future years. Yeah. They're going to be taking some cracks at the top 5 and looking at podium, hopefully.
Looks like it. Ann Forsythe, the freshman from Ann Arbor Pioneer, 18:47 for the win. Hannah Cummings behind her at 19:03.
Little flip-flop from their conference championship a week ago.
And again, that was a very, very good race. And a couple of years ago when Saline, I think, initially went there, that region really wasn't nearly as competitive as it is right now. And now it's a very good region with Woodhaven competing like that.
Yeah.
Region 6, Northville, Novi, Detroit Catholic Central, your 3.
This is at Willow Metro Park.
Yep.
So a lot of teams, not just from the Wayne area, but from the Washtenaw area.
Yeah, kind of
familiar with that.
275 corridor actually, if you kind of map it out a little bit.
Another honest 5. That is a true course as well. It is a fun one too if you ever get a chance to go there and and he's as an athlete or a spectator.
Yeah.
That's one to check out.
Couple loops, really easy to see everything. Last year, I'll say it really quick, Novi was at this region up until about a month to go in the season, inexplicably moved up to the Brighton region, the region of doom as it was called, as it's basically called every year. They got moved. They would have qualified out of this region. Instead, they finished 4th in that Brighton region. I know that their coach was very upset, rightfully so. Especially when you don't hear reasons for things, I think people are justifiable to be upset.
Just a mid-season move,
Right.
regional. So imagine as a coach, you have, all your forms filled out. You've told your families, you've told your athletes, this is what we're doing. This is the plan. You're looking at the big picture of things, and then you get this big curveball thrown in. So you got to kind of redo a few things here, adjust to it, but you get no explanation. That's
right.
That's a little fishy.
And I'm sure that he got upset with the MHSAA, and I'm sure that that's why he stayed in Region 6 this year. But they punched their ticket. They're looking to be actually kind of a surprising top 5, top 7 team.
Yeah, they're definitely in the mix of things. You see there's, like you're saying, if you look at there's that first 4 or 5, they're leading the way in that next 4 almost, and that's a quality team. Do not sleep on Novi.
Yeah, and it's been a while since they've been there. They kind of went back and forth with Rockford actually early 2000s. Those were really the teams going back and forth. So good to see them back up there. Winning that, Chaz Jeffers of Salem 1546, and a kid from Novi, Juice Platnick, probably butchered that, 1555. Those are 2 really impressive times on that course, no question.
It's wild.
Women's side, Northville, Salem, and Livonia Churchill are your top 3 out. Kind of a crapshoot there for 3rd place. Novi, very close, 5 points back. Salem women seem to be coming right along.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit surprising, at least to me, know what they have going there, especially in that area. It's all, Canton, Plymouth, and Salem are also close that, you're never really sure who's who or who's on what team necessarily.
For those not familiar, Plymouth, Canton, Salem, their schools are almost like one campus. Kid you not, they're on the same lot. So a lot of times I'm sure they see each other all day, all the time.
Yeah.
Some good trash talking going on. Interestingly, if you look at this region though, that drop off comes quick.
Yeah.
After the first 2 teams scoring 41-46, you almost have to wonder if Northville girls kind of just did enough to win, or was it Salem that just went out of their minds and ran the race of their lives? And
winning that race was Maddie Trevison of Farmington, 1841, and Northville number 1, Kayla Eckenroth, 1853. I know Northville girls have been under a lot of question recently because one of their top 5 has not been running. I believe it's been Lexa Barrett. She did run at regionals.
All right. She's healthy,
so
ready to go.
It seems like her coach, she's smart. They won the state title last year.
Yep.
She did sat her all year, didn't care about their conference championship, didn't care about Wayne County, and just wanted to make sure she was ready to go. Test her at regionals, hit it hard at state meet, and see if they can bring home another title. It's gonna be good, and that'll be mentioned more later. Region 7, Mott, Lakeland, and Walled Lake Central are your top 3. Waterford Mott, that is. Don't want to confuse anyone with Warren Mott. Big story here. Ben Hill did not run. He is not eligible for state finals. Their team did not make it, and since he did not run, he is not able to run at the state finals. At least to my knowledge.
Looking at a top 5 kid.
No question.
Not returning.
And a little bit of question if that's an injury, if that's a sickness, if it's whatever's going on.
Bad luck.
And
it's unfortunate because he certainly would add a lot to the state meet. He's a guy that's not afraid to challenge.
Yeah.
If you remember outdoor states in track, the 2-mile, he was the one pushing it.
He threw down, yeah.
He threw down, was not afraid, and was pushing the pace right from the get-go.
And he knew Fisher was right there.
Yep.
He knew he'd try to outkick him. And
he tried to break him with 500 to go. That's a thing you were hoping to see. He jumps right in there with Ryan Robinson, a few of those other guys helping to push the pace. So it's too bad he can't be there.
Robinson wins it from Mott. Robinson Jr., I should say, as his dad is also Ryan Robinson. 1540 for the win there. John Pennington of Brother Rice. Haven't really heard his name a lot. He had a really good season last year. 1605 for 2nd place. That's a Hess Halfway Park.
Yeah.
That's a very tough course, I would say.
For those of you, if you haven't gotten a chance to get out there, there is a deceit, like a hidden hill is what the kids always called it. You know, we got a chance to check it out once or twice. That's a tough course. That is, I mean, it's a tougher than most other courses would be. So running 1540 on there is no joke by any stretch.
And then on the women's side, not any surprise at all. Seaholm with the win, 27 points. Walled Lake Northern 100. Warford Mott girls get in 110 points. Yeah. That's a program that's coming along. There's, believe it or not, there's another Osika coming through the Waterford Mott program.
Another one.
There is. There's one at Michigan. There's 2 on the boys team, and now there's Alyssa. Nope. There's one also at Ferris State. That's Alyssa Osika. It's the Osika family is
single family taking care of mom.
Yes.
Then you give me a gift basket. Thank you card.
That's right. Audrey Belf of Seaholm wins at 17:32. That's pretty crazy. She just this week committed to Georgetown. A little surprise for me. I personally thought she was going to stay in state. I saw a very similar path between her and Aaron Finn. I thought she'd kind of follow that Michigan pipeline.
Now G-Town is one of the best teams in the nation. They just won pre-nats.
And they just beat Michigan. And I wonder if that had any, hard to believe, but her
great school, great program.
Her teammate Rachel D'Adamio of Seaholm, 18:24 for second place. So Belf was able to stop, get some water, turn around and cheer on her second place teammate.
17:32 on a course like that, you have to be kind of wondering in the back of your mind, can she float with that 17 flat line at the speedway? You know,
and I think with good weather, we're going to see some crazy times get thrown down. Region 8, this is
another Friday regional.
Yep. Macomb, Lanza Cruz North, St. Clair Shores, Lakeview, and Grosse Pointe North are your 3 men's teams out. Grosse Pointe North kind of always finding a way to get out of that region, it seems. They have gone, I would be curious to see how many consecutive state meets they've gone to, actually, because it seems that they're always that team that gets out. Mickey Davey of De La Salle, 15:35. I'm not familiar with this course, but I mean, he's a good runner, so it seems like he was throwing down. And Thomas Machino of Macomb, Cruz North, 15:45. So probably battling back and forth a little bit. I'm sure that helped. And on the women's side, Grosse Pointe South, Grosse Pointe North, and Macomb Lanza Cruz North, and that's just a 1-point difference between 3rd and 4th place. Troy Athens.
That's another heartbreaker for them, 4th place team.
Karina Duffy of Macomb, 17:58 for the win. So going sub 18. At a regional meet, that's pretty impressive. She wins by about 40 seconds over Mary Spencer from Grosse Pointe South. So, of course, maybe a little bit fast. Then again, great weather will do that. And
a pretty cool story I just heard the other day about Karina. I mean, she's still new to running. Like, this is all very new stuff to her, you know. So you got to, I mean, the ceiling is high.
Yeah,
potential is way up there for her to do well.
That would be great. Just kind of get stupid and run fast next Saturday.
Now, Grosse Pointe South girls, I'm not gonna lie, this is amazing where they are, how well they ran that, how strong they're looking as a team. A lot of times people, you remember the Meyer twins. And some of the other players that were in the mix too. They had the thing rolling hard for a while there. And once they all kind of graduated and moved on, you kind of thought, okay, well, maybe that's the end of it. And here they are looking very good again. Yeah,
and a little bit of a shock, especially with, the transfer that happened earlier this year. Ursula Farrow goes to Oak Park. A lot of questions about it. Whether you question it or not, Brandon Giles is one of the best coaches in the state of Michigan, probably in the nation. Motor City Track Club is one of the most well-known track clubs in the nation over what they've done the last 20, 30 years. He was a dominant runner when he ran at Mumford. He was a good coach when he was at Mumford, went to Oak Park, had those girls clicking along. Probably one of the best orchestrated state meets I've ever seen. He obviously had the athletes, but he put them in the perfect position. I'm not at all surprised that runners are wanting to run for him. And I don't think people should be surprised. They were investigated by the MHSAA. I believe the matter is put to bed. So let's all just move on with this. They're a good team regardless. It's a good coach. And, they're representing, I think, the state across the nation very well. They went
Oh, absolutely.
they went
And he's
348 last year
Yeah.
in the 4x4 or something.
Yeah, stop and think about that for a second. 348. It is unreal. That is amazing.
So Region 9, this will be our final region, kind of winding down here. Lake Orion boys, Rochester and Port Huron Northern are the 3 out.
Rochester boys, look at that huge jump. I
Yeah.
mean, peaking at the right time, came, they knew what they had to do. So,
And getting the overall win, Kyle Repetto of Rochester, 1549. You know that helped Jacob Domagowski of Romeo, 1556. Kind of a surprise there. He's definitely one of the top 10 runners in the state. So to see him lose in his region, a little bit of a surprise there. On the women's side, Sterling Heights Stevenson, another team that has absolutely come along the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's a well-oiled machine, and they're clicking at the right time again. That's a program that you believe that they'll be there end of the year.
they're constantly there. They're one of those teams, like they've got the tradition, so to speak, that they know when to be there, when to turn it on, get going.
The Rochester and Lake Orion. Lake Orion moving up really nicely. Kind of a surprise, when I think women's cross country, admittedly, I do not think of Lake Orion too often. And getting out of their region, maybe this is the start of something down the road for them. Just a point even separated them from second place, and that Rochester, another prestigious program that's just kind of always there.
It's always had amazing individuals come through.
Rachel Bonner of Port Huron, 1818. Emma Wilson of Romeo, 1829. Sam Hansen of Sterling Heights Stevenson, 1843. Fast race.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw the results. And this one, I would like to know more about the course myself. It's not just a fast race, but you saw across the board in all the teams, humongous PRs. And it's one thing if a team hits it right, a couple of teams hit it right, they're notorious for it. But you're looking at big chunks of time drop-offs across the entire field.
Yeah.
So that's one I would kind of think, I don't want to call it suspect, but I mean, the flag is on that one.
Yeah. Fortunately, all the teams are running on the same course that day. So, it's not a direct, you're not being seeded like at the track state finals or something. So these, you were top 3, whether you ran 2 miles, 5K, 4.5 miles, whatever the case. Hopefully it wasn't that short. I think we would have seen some crazy times. Kind of moving on to the big picture now. And then, we'll just kind of hope to hear from people and see what people want to talk about. Northville men are going to keep that -- 1 spot. We'll see how they handle it. Did not go over well last year. They were
heavy favorites.
headed in between them and Mott, and then in sneaks Milford, and Sal gets his second three-peat of his career last year. So that's 6 state titles, and we shouldn't have been surprised, and yet we were. Northville, Rockford, Waterford, Mott, Saline, and Pinckney, and those are 5 of the most humming along programs that we hear about right now. Novi, Ann Arbor Skyline, Okemos, Traverse City Central, and Holly. And this race is wide open. I think that there's probably 3 or 4 teams vying for that number 1, number 2 spot, and that's taking home a trophy. And then really, there's a lot of shuffling that can happen within that top 10.
You're looking at this, and you could easily be 5th or 10th, honestly. It's a total crapshoot, roll of the dice. You're going to get 10 different results, 10 different ways.
And we've looked at this heavily. You hear about it a lot with FlowTrack just released a nice article about it about a month ago, and it was just the importance of the 3, 4, 5. And what your 1 and 2 are going to do for the most part. The race isn't quite as congested at that point. That's the front half of the bell curve. So you're looking, those kids are going to be, sub 16, they're going to be sub 15, 30, whatever they need to do. But it's that 3, is he going to beat the 20 kids right behind him? It's only a 3-second difference, but it's a 20-point swing.
That's where I really like teams like, Rockford and Pinckney right now. Their 3 is so strong. And they do a really good job with that.
And there's a lot of teams here that I think are gonna really quick. I know Region 4. We talk about it being the region of doom, whatever. They have the number 5, the number 7, and the number 8 team currently in these rankings. Not really a surprise for anyone that knows those programs. the Okemos program, especially the last like 2 or 3 years.
They
My
really
goodness.
I mean, they were a huge player in D2 about 10 years back, you know, and then they moved up to D1 with larger enrollment. And man, things are just moving right along.
Yeah, especially on the track, really noticeable.
And then if you're looking at, though, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, you know, then you're looking at Region 8 here.
Yep.
You're talking about 3 brand new teams to rankings. Again, like you were saying earlier, new to
The
top 50 rankings.
Yeah.
Yep, coming into play.
So it's tough to say that there's balance.
Yeah.
I understand part of it does have to be regional based. You can't have, you know, it's high school athletics.
Yeah.
You can't have teams driving 3 hours on a Friday or an early Saturday morning to try to get to their region, because you need to balance everything out. So it is a really fine line. I know it's something people are working feverishly on. We can talk about it a little bit more in a bit, for sure, because it's a hot button issue, probably the biggest among our coaching group right now, I would say. On the women's side, Traverse City Central, Seaholm, and Northville are the top 3. Grosse Pointe South moves into 4. I was surprised by this, but you know, then again, I don't know. The hypothetical doesn't really lie. You know, maybe they ran on a fast course this past week at their region, but you know, we'll see what they can do at the state finals. They're definitely familiar. Most of those girls, you know, were the 3, 4, 5, or the you know, the 4, 5, 6 when the Meyer and Ursula Farrow were there. But now they're, you know, they're in the position to kind of create their own destiny here. And it looks like they're in good position for it.
Yeah, big credit to TCC. Everyone all year long was talking, hey, Seaholm. They're going to walk away with it. Now they're looking like a serious contender to give them a real run for their money.
Yeah. Question will be, can Northville get back in there?
They've done it before.
They did it last year. And, you know, it's a true team concept with Northville, no question. You know, you have your power runners, but then it's a really solid 3, 4, 5.
Yep.
Like we were just mentioning, and that's what gets the job done. It's not your top 2, because, you know, whether your top 2 is first or third, it's only a 1 or 2 point swing.
Yep.
But it's that number 3 runner who's the difference between 20th and 30th place or something.
Yeah, because there comes that point you were mentioning in the bell curve, that at some point in the race, you're starting to see 2 runners every second finishing. Give it another 10 seconds, you're seeing 3, 4 runners finishing every second. You know, everyone's got a good top 2 at this point. If you're in the hunt for a title, everybody's got a great top 2. But what is your 3, 4, 5 doing for you?
And then Sterling Heights Stevenson is your Saline, Brighton, Milford, Rockford, and Clarkston. Clarkston moved up really nicely.
Huge.
Rockford, Milford, Brighton, Saline, you know, 4 of the programs that tend to get it done at the end of the year. And, you know, just over time, they've had that, you know, Sal will be able to focus on his ladies a little bit. You know, in the past, you know, his boys are looking at a top 3. So, you know, you hate to say that he focuses on one, but this week his men's team did not qualify. He got a couple of individuals. It'll be interesting to see what he does with a week with these ladies. I think to get them in position.
That's a dark horse team that can watch. And if you didn't know, I believe they just have 1 senior on the varsity team, and it's nothing but underclassmen returning for a couple of years here.
There you go.
So he might just a couple of years down the road, we'll see what he does with that.
And then obviously this is the one race where there's not really a question for an individual title. Grant Fisher, especially now that there's no Ben Hill.
Yeah.
The question is, what's he gonna run? Are you gonna see the date in time? Are you going to see sub 14:30? It's so dependent on weather. It's unbelievable.
Because you gotta remember, if whichever way the wind goes also helps too.
Right.
Because the finishing is started the exact same way. You got the same 800 as the same first 800, the same last 800. So if you have a headwind coming in, that's when sometimes you look back in over history, you see like on the boys race being 1 in 1540, and you're looking at it going, what happened here? Well, you know, it's very obvious. You get a little tailwind, you get those years of the 1410s, the 1450s, and such.
And I think he has all the talent in the world. The question is, and I think with Grant, I don't think he cares about that time necessarily. I think it's interesting, especially with what he ran at Portage. I think he'll definitely do enough to win. I think if the conditions are right, he'll go for it. I think if the conditions are bad, I think you see him hang in that lead pad and then go for it when he needs to.
because his thing is he's got another month.
Yep.
After that,
Foot Locker Nationals is his goal. Yeah. He'll try to repeat there.
This is a stepping stone and a test along the way.
As I kind of mentioned earlier, this was during the D4, but mile split flow track. They were at the Mount Sac invite last night. They interviewed the kid that won it, 14:23. First thing they asked him, are you going to beat Grant Fisher at Foot Locker?
Yeah.
Grant has run 14:40.
Right.
And yet the first question out of their mouth is, can you beat Grant Fisher now? And that's what we're seeing here. You're seeing the elite kids in the nation are rolling out of this state. Yeah. Audrey Belf is also one of the top 5Kers in the nation.
Yep.
She may get overlooked because of the Elise Cranny or the the crew on the West Coast, but she is putting up some competitive times. The second she gets under 17, she's going to be front and center, I would say, in the nation. She had a really disappointing Foot Locker Midwest last year, and I think that's kind of why people aren't really noticing her. But she, had a great 5K outdoors at on the track.
Yeah.
Yep, on the and so we'll kind of see how that shapes up. But I think it's gonna be a really, really interesting year. There's definitely no clear-cut favorite, and it amazes me with D1 the way that D1 is structured, that you have no ceiling for school size.
Right.
All the other, except for D4 where you have no bottom, D2 is confined within a 400-person, window basically for your school size. D3 the same way. And yet for D1, year after year, you see teams, making noise that don't really have overwhelming, populations or anything. Grand Blanc is probably one of the biggest high schools.
With 2,800 kids, give or take a few.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
then you turn around and
they're fighting for a 10 spot. Saline, something like that, 1,800. Rockford, another big school.
Yep.
I don't know all the enrollments of these schools, but Ann Arbor Skyline is
maybe
small.
1,600.
Yeah.
Give or take a few.
They're one of 3 Ann Arbor schools, and yet they're still right there in that mix. And anyone that's watched them this year and knows kind of Todd Snyder and what he did while he was at Pioneer running.
Michigan All-American.
Absolutely.
Ran with the Hanson's Club. Ran at Boston a couple of times.
Yeah, absolutely have to believe that he's going to have those boys ready to roll. And so that's where it's really interesting. These coaches that you look at up here, are probably some of the best that we've seen in some time, where it's this competitive year in and year out. You don't have the dominance of Rockford. You don't have the dominance of any one program. Really, Milford, you can say they've been dominating, but
and you've seen some fresh new blood in the coaching scene right here amongst the top 10, 15. A lot of these guys are kind of just starting to click really and getting everything ironed out. As a coach, they're in their 8th, 10th year. And they're still young guys that are going to be around for a long time. So.
Yeah, and then on the women's side, you're seeing really established programs. Seaholm and Traverse City Central are still a little bit new. Seaholm especially, though. That's the last 5 years type of thing.
Yep.
And they've really made a flash in the pan. We'll see, what they can do. A couple of years ago, Audrey Belf, I think, was the number 4 when they won the state title. They had the triplets that are now at, Iowa, Michigan State, and not quite sure what the third one is. But no one knew who this 4th girl, Audrey Belf, was. She was little and she was a freshman, and now, it's a pipeline to see. Yeah, and this is what we're realizing. Yes, we're losing Grant Fisher, we're losing Audrey Belf after the season, but
there's going to be someone else.
It seems we're going to pick it up.
No, we didn't.
We're
every year we're having this conversation. Wow, who would have thought?
Yeah, and it's shaping up to be a really good year for sure. Just kind of quick, we'll go into hoping to get a few more questions. I understand if people are watching Lions, I have it on as well. Lions are not doing so hot. The reason that this was started by me, I understand that there are rankings out there. Michigan cross country, they've been doing, they've been doing them for years. Yeah. I think 8 to 10 years now. And to me, I like to see. I'm a stats guy. I like to see things recorded year to year. I like to go back and I like to look at how accurate they were. Where did we get this right? That is what this will be. Yep. Every week in here you can see the team week by week performance.
You're looking at weekly power rankings.
Right. And this is based almost completely on USTF CCCA. Yep. If you have not checked it out, they do probably the best job with this I've seen anyone do.
Collegiate rankings.
Just really nice. What they're putting out every week is really nice. It's put out on time. And I think just having this information, one, at the end of the season, we get to look back and, you get to see when all of a sudden you have 3 teams in the top 8. It's right in front of you. You don't have to try to remember, exactly what happened. And I think that's the problem I have, is that it's not really recorded. I don't even know if you can necessarily find all of those old rankings that they have. You probably can, but it's not readily available. I think it should be pushed out there.
Right.
If you're going to propose a rankings-based system where teams are moving around, after portage or whatever the case is, 3 weeks left in the season, I think you need to have some kind of a basis that, the rankings we're putting out are a direct relation to what happens at the state finals.
Right.
And again, that's why this is being created. It's probably ruffling feathers. I understand. I understand I'm not the most popular guy in the state since I started working even for Miles
but
back
at
a
least
year
it
ago.
creates the conversation towards progress.
Right.
Everyone, like you said, a lot of people talk about this and say our system's flawed, we want change, but we need to make the right change for the long term. We can't just have change happen and then we're shooting ourselves in the foot and wishing we chose for something else.
Right. And I think as far as a membership, we've been split. We've talked as a MHSAA membership, that is.
Right.
I know this won't pertain to everybody, but we've talked about districts. We've talked about and we've talked about moving teams around after portage.
Yeah.
It just seems crazy to me that with 3 weeks left in the season, you're going to just find out your regional course. Yes, only some teams are going to be moving, but if you're one of those teams, then you're left guessing. You can't, over the summer, you can't try to drive out to your regional course and check it out as soon as they're posted. You can't schedule an invite on that course. And that's where I would have a problem with that system. I think districts raises other issues with the schedule of the season. You're either asking the MHSAA to push things back a week, or you're asking almost every single person's conference championship to get moved back a week.
Right. So now you're talking about a conference championship, a district championship, a regional championship, a state finals.
You got to have
so
your
now
kids
you
ready
have
to go for a month.
Some of the teams are hoping to tap into the well just a couple of times, but then you keep going. You're just asking for more and more from your athletes.
Yeah, and I would almost make districts. It would almost be better if they happened earlier. To me, if the structure, if it's going to happen, I would almost look at districts and then a conference championship week, and then because likely your conference championship might be more competitive than your district, where you're going to have like 8 teams. It's going to be, I would assume, all regional based.
I think what's another model I personally really enjoy seeing is the NCAA model.
Yeah.
Where you have the regions that are broken down, they stay consistent every year, but the number of bids change depending on what has happened over the previous years.
Right.
So say your region produces, you sign up for 3 teams like everyone always does. Your region has to punch in 3 teams in the top 15. Well, maybe next year that region now gets another one.
Right.
And they can adjust it. But you find out where the hotbeds are and it caters towards that.
Yeah. And, it's track and cross country regionals are structured so much differently. Track, all you want to do is be in a good region.
Yeah.
You want to get your kids to state finals. That's all. And yet in cross, you kind of want to be in a good one, but you want to make sure there's only 2 other good teams there.
With that 1 week turnaround, it's sometimes kind of nice to just be able to kind of just cruise through and really have, not tap into the well. Track season, you get that extra week. You can iron a few things out, rest up again, get ready to go for the state finals. Yeah,
I think that, if you did go to kind of a bid system like that where, we put 3 in the top 15, we get another team next year, your regionals need to stay exactly the same from year to year with the exception of people bumping up or people coming down. It needs to be completely regional based. The Ann Arbor schools need to all be in a region together. Not one going up to St. John's, not one going to Willow, and not one going downriver. It's the most backwards nonsense out there, I think. You keep all those schools closed.
Considering that one is a regional host, yes.
Everyone's driving, you could structure that in a way. Everyone's driving 20 minutes. You could easily sneak that in on a Friday. You get that extra day of recovery. If that region produces at the state finals, you get that 4th team, no questions. Okay, and it's because you showed it.
And it's something that's not just D1 too. You see a lot more in D4 where there's just around that, what's it, the Lansing area, the Traverse City area. Those are hotbeds, and there's a lot of quality teams that get left home.
Yeah.
And they keep having this argument over and over again.
Yeah, and I think you're never going to get 3 teams should always come out of a region. I believe that. I think you make it completely regional based. Maybe you can do a little maneuvering to get some teams in other places. Putting all the Detroit schools in one would probably be not great because they tend to not field teams.
Right.
But you could split them between that Grosse Pointe region and the downriver one.
Yep.
Both pretty close drives. If you produce, you get that next team. Yes, it's the following season, and that might be what people are complaining about. Well, it's a year delayed, but those teams that are number 4 that think that they're deserving, those are the perennial powers that we see every year, and they say, we deserve to be there. Saginaw Heritage, you know what, you deserve to be there. Yeah. I will say that. But you know what? At the same time, you didn't get it done. You weren't top 3 at your region. Yeah. That was your one job that day. You weren't top 3. Now, all of a sudden, last year, I wonder if those teams had all been top 15 or something like that.
Right.
Do you get that 4th team out? That would be interesting to see. A little bit of a science math project for someone. But I think that that's an interesting way to go about it. I understand people wanting a lot of teams there, but you don't see it with any other sport. Right. Every other sport, you're pretty much taking 2. Swimming, track, cross country, those are a few of the exceptions, just how it's structured. But you don't see football commissioning for a second game.
Basketball is a lot of the same. You see a lot of times, look at, say, in the DPL, their best team in the league is probably one of the best teams in the state.
Right. And they're getting bounced in districts.
Yeah.
They're not even getting a chance to go to regionals. Yep. So there are pros and cons with everything. I think that what people need to realize is things have been this way for a long time. It's really hard to change things. So when we do make the change, it needs to be the right change. Yep. Because we may not get another chance for another 10 or 20 years until we're having this discussion again, saying, why the hell did we choose this? And I'm not saying anything is that bad. I'm not trying to, I know a lot of people have put a lot of effort into these proposals, and I'm sure it's very frustrating to watch it just fall on deaf ears as soon as it hits the rep council through the MHSAA, where it actually, goes to rule changes. But yeah, that's our brief spiel. If anyone has anything really quick that we want to get across, more than happy. Obviously, a lot of D4 chatter.
Yep.
But haven't really seen much since then. We've been kind of tracking it on the Twitter, but again, haven't seen a whole lot. No problems. A couple of coaches, you can kind of just follow it on Twitter. They're not tweeting directly at us, talking about the the tough day for the Saginaw Heritage team, actually. Yeah. Obviously, it is very unfortunate. By no means was I trying to say it was their fault. But however, you have a job to do day of regionals. That job is top 3.
And like I said, sometimes it's just getting a little bit of luck, pushing the right buttons, pulling the right levers. That kind of comes into it, So. And
I think that's I think part of the beauty of cross country is I think there's a lot more chance almost anyone can win it at any given time. There's, it's kind of there's just as much grit as there is talent.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at the track state finals, almost predicated completely on talent. Tough to really crack in there if you don't have the right pieces. Cross country, you can get it done with a couple of tough kids. Yeah. And so I think that that's interesting to see. At the end of the season, there will be like a fully comprehensive report done, and that'll hopefully be done the Sunday after the state finals. And I'm going to go into how accurate were these rankings, what week were they most accurate, and just, again, I don't have a plan for this, but I think that collecting this information and really going into it is important. When we kind of flip through, I know there's a lot of pages in what I put up every week, but you look at the men's regional teams in the top 50 up until this week, and you had 9 from Region 2, 9 from Region 4, 7 from Region 6,
and then 1
and then 1 from Region 8. You,
A
yes,
little bit of an imbalance.
right. So, it should be addressed in some capacity. We don't have all the answers. That's why we're kind of hoping to get people talking. And, but that's fine. It is 11:40. And if you need or have any other questions, we will be able to respond to them, obviously, through Twitter or some other capacity throughout the day. This is just purely a dry run. As I said, this is something that I would like to do a lot more. It's difficult, especially Takashi is coaching. I'm still going to school a little bit, working here and there, working cross-country meets.
But give us feedback. That's what we want.
It's difficult to find the time. If it's worth it, we'll do it. And I absolutely mean that. I removed myself from coaching. I was his assistant coach for a year, and I did not realize how much I would miss it. And I missed the sport, and so I kind of got into timing a lot more and helping out timing and just going to meets. And it's, I want to be around the sport. I want to help it grow, and I think that this is a step in that direction. People are aware of what we're producing in the state, but now is really the time to get things rolling, I would say. And yep, so feedback, any thoughts on this? I think this video will be available to be posted. Not that that is super valuable, but it'll be posted somewhere on the Mitten Running site just for people to go back through and look. Hopefully, probably can't do it maybe next Sunday. Quick review. We'll see.
Let's stay meet chatter.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it's a great day. Like I said, the weather for Friday, I heard that there is snow in the forecast, and I'm saying that as it's 75 degrees outside yesterday. Yes, we live in Michigan.
Hooray for Midwest.
Honestly, I'd rather snow than rain though, because the second it starts raining at MIS, that last half mile becomes terrible. And everyone saw that last year. My lead car was stuck twice. And once in the D1 boys race, and let me tell you, it's hard to catch up to Grant Fisher even in a gas golf cart. So let's hope for some dry weather. Let's hope for some fast times. And I think that this will be the best state meet probably in the nation. And hopefully, top to bottom.
Hopefully so.
I think, you're looking at 4 or 5 kids potentially breaking 15 across all the divisions. And if Fisher decides to push it, obviously losing Ben Hill hurts a little bit, but that chase back, there's Logan Wetzel, there's Ryan Robinson, there's John Russell. There's a lot of kids right in that mix that all they need to do is get pushed for an entire 5K, and they're right there. So, yeah, I think that'll wrap it up. Lions are currently losing 10-21, but we'll be live on that. Hopefully they're winning live from London. Yeah, if you have any comments, feel free to reach out to us, and hope you have a great Sunday.
Here, guys.